What's up, basketball fans? Welcome into NBA Now by Chat Sports, and on today's show, we're going to focus on some Golden State Warriors draft rumors because everybody knows they landed the second overall pick in the draft, and that means that's where all of their attention's going to be turned. First guy we're going to talk about is Deni Avdija, who I have as my top international prospect in this year's draft, and the Golden State Warriors are reportedly very high on this kid out of Israel. They may look to draft him second, or they might look to trade back just a little bit, and they can get him a little bit later in that top 5. Now, Avdija is a natural scorer, and he really has pretty good mechanics when it comes to his jump shot, but his jump shot just hasn't proven 100% reliable in international play. Now, you look at his games overseas, and look, the numbers never jump out to you with these international guys, right? He played 59 games. He scored 9 points, had about 5 boards, 2 assists, but his per 36 numbers are really what change it, because had he gotten normal numbers or normal time overseas, he would have been dominating at a much higher level. Now, you look at all the international guys on my top 5, and no, I don't have guys like LaMelo Ball or R.J. Hampton included here because, in all reality, they're not actually international. But Deni Avdija is clear-cut number 1, in my opinion. Killian Hayes, I have about 6th on my big board, but second internationally, a point guard out of France who is an incredibly offensively gifted point guard with his left hand. Aleksej Pokusevski out of Serbia, a 7-footer that moves like Kevin Durant, but he's got a long way to go when it comes to improving his body. Theo Maledon, another French point guard. They got something in the water over there, I guess. And then Leandro Bolmaro out of Argentina, a great playmaking forward who probably goes near the end of the first round, could be a draft and stash type guy. Now, Deni Avdija is clearly a wing. I have him as a forward. Some people list him as a guard. He has that playmaking ability, but he's not quite there yet. But you look at the wings that the Warriors have on this roster, they could use some improvement off the bench. Now, Klay Thompson and Andrew Wiggins, they're just fine there. Klay Thompson, obviously one of the greatest shooters in the NBA and maybe eventually of all time. Wiggins, yeah, you can say what you want about him, but as a third option on a championship team, he might actually work out pretty well. Then you got Jordan Poole, who he drafted in the first round last year, and I like Poole, but he's more of a guard. Damian Lee has a non-guaranteed contract, but I expect him back in a Warriors uniform. And then Juan Toscano Anderson, who actually spent most of his time in the G League, but played a little bit with the Golden State Warriors. Not a guy you're going to rely on off the bench. Now, a lot of people want to say that Deni Avdija is the second coming of Luka Doncic. Pump the freaking brakes. He's not Luka Doncic. Please do not compare him to him because that's not who he's going to be. Instead, I compare him to a guy like Danilo Gallinari, more of a playmaking forward. He's about the same size. Gallo's 6'10", Avdija is 6'9". Gallinari's 230 pounds. Deni Avdija is 215 pounds. We'll probably put some weight on in the NBA. Now, he's not as good of a shooter as Gallinari yet, but when Gallinari was entering the NBA, he was playing about 34 minutes over in Italy and putting up 18 points per game. You give Avdija the same amount of minutes as Gallinari had overseas, he probably would have been doing very similar things, and that is the player that I expect him to kind of become as his NBA career progresses. Now, that's the guy that they're really high on, but they're looking at a lot of different players. They're looking at LaMelo Ball, Onyeka Okongwu. They're not high on James Wiseman, but they may consider him. But why don't you put on your GM thinking cap and let me know, if you were the Warriors, who would you draft second overall? So just pretend they're going to keep the pick, even though they may not. And if they do, who should the Warriors take? Now let me tell you about my friends over at Fanatics that are hooking you up with some sweet jerseys for a great price, and they're all authentic. They are hand-stitched, and you can wear them and wash them, dry them, whatever you need to do, and nothing's going to happen to them because they're real. Go to chatsports.com/NBA jerseys, get your favorite team, and get your favorite player and rep it all off season long. No matter who the Warriors draft second overall, Fanatics is going to have that jersey ready. Let's go to chatsports.com/NBA jerseys and pick out your jersey today. Let's talk about Isaac Okoro. Apparently, the Warriors are pretty high on this kid out of Auburn, according to a Golden State Warrior insider. And I get it. But also the same insider said that they're higher on Avdija than they are on Okoro. Now, defensively, he is the best defensive wing in the draft by a mile. He's super athletic. He finishes well at the rim, but he's got a long way to go when it comes to his jump shot. He is not a three-point shooter. Some are saying, oh, 3-and-D guy. More just like a defensive guy without the 3, but maybe it'll come around. Now, at Auburn, he played in just 28 games. He's still 19 years old, super, super young. 12.9 points per game, 4 boards, 2 assists. Field goal percentage was around 51% because most of his shots were coming from around the rim. Here's the thing with Okoro. He is more of a specialist of none, jack of all trades kind of offensive guy where he's good at a lot of different things, but he doesn't have one thing mastered on the offensive end. Defensively, however, he's elite. Now, Wes Goldberg, who is the insider we're talking about, had this to say about Isaac Okoro, which is both scary and somewhat promising. So let me read it for you word for word. I'm not as bullish on Okoro's ability to meet his upside. Though he may be the best one-on-one defender in this class, he has shown little as a ball handler and a shooter, and he could end up being more like Michael Kidd-Gilchrist and less like Andre Iguodala. Now, you hear those two names, and you think, oh, Andre Iguodala, finals MVP, a core piece of a championship team, core piece of multiple playoff teams with the Denver Nuggets, now with the Miami Heat, was with the Golden State Warriors. Think back when he was in Philly with Allen Iverson, a great player that Okoro's been compared to. But then you think of Michael Kidd-Gilchrist, the dude with the most broke jump shot you've ever seen in your life, and he's only played in 446 games, and he was the second overall pick in his draft. That is nuts. Now, the numbers are about the same. However, the three-point percentage a little bit better on Iggy's side, and when you look at what they do off paper, what they do on the court, and the impact they make on the defensive end, Iggy is 10 times the player Michael Kidd-Gilchrist has ever been or will ever be. Now, there's two elite defensive wings that I think are worthy of being taken in the lottery. It's Isaac Okoro and Devin Vassell. Now, for the Warriors, although I think Okoro is a much better defender, for what the Warriors like to do when they like to space the floor and shoot the ball, Devin Vassell might be the better pick because his numbers line up pretty evenly with Okoro's. He's not as good of a defender, but he's like 3 times, I guess not percentage-wise, math, whatever, but he shoots 42% better from 3 than Isaac Okoro. So I think Vassell might make more sense for the Warriors, but maybe they're just saying, hey, we really need to step up our defensive side of the ball, and they don't care how good you are offensively, and they're going to take Okoro. But if you're the Warriors, who would you take out of these two guys? You can either take the shooter, who's probably about 3/4 the defender Isaac Okoro is, which is still really, really good, or you could take the dude who gets it done at the rim, who's a much better defender, and just has some work to do on his three-point shot. Type DV for Devin Vassell out of Florida State. Type IO for Isaac Okoro, who has some pretty cool initials if you ask me. Anyway, let's move on to bigger and better things. If you love the NBA and you love the NBA draft and you love NBA free agency, you love the NBA playoffs, you love all things basketball, you're going to want to subscribe to Chat Sports. I'm your host for all these NBA videos. Go to youtube.com/chatsportstv, or we make it real easy on you. You scroll down, hit the big red subscribe button. If you're looking at it right now and you're not a subscriber, that button's probably red. But when you click it, poof, it turns to gray. And all of a sudden that means you subscribed. You're one of our over 188,000 subscribers. Now let's move on to one more guy that's being circulated around the NBA for a possible pick for the Golden State Warriors. That's Obi Toppin. Now, Michael Wilbon was asked about this kid, and he said, as a guy who's not cheering for the Warriors, that he's terrified that the Warriors will pick him at number 2 because he says if they pick him at 2, they're going to win a lot of games for a long time coming. He's versatile. He's a super freak athlete, but he's a terrible defender. Offensively, think Amari Stoudemire. Defensively, think Jahlil Okafor. Now, he's way more athletic than Okafor ever was, but defensively, he just doesn't put effort on that side of the ball. Now, this last year, he was a redshirt sophomore at Dayton. He put up 20 points per game. He averaged 7.5 rebounds. He shot better than 63% from the field. He can stretch the floor pretty well, but you want this dude inside. You want him back to the basket. You want him on the fast break. You want him catching lobs, and that's what he will do. Now, I think Toppin is deserving of probably a top 5 pick. I think that's about where he'll land. Maybe 5, 6, right outside that top 5. I'm not sure I'd take him at 2 simply because defensively he's just not there. But, I mean, the Warriors can benefit to kind of take a chance on a guy that would go a little bit lower. But which team do you think should draft Obi Toppin? Let me know in the comment section below. If you're a subscriber, you know that I've already done a mock draft, and you already know where I think Obi Toppin's going to go. But I want to hear from you guys, hear from our watchers. Let us know in the comment section. Now, it is a pretty natural fit when you look at this Golden State Warrior team of you just put Obi Toppin in at the small ball 5, and you're basically running small ball all the time. You got Steph and Clay in the backcourt. You've got two athletic freaks in Andrew Wiggins and Obi Toppin. And you've got Draymond Green, who can play the 4 or, again, like Toppin, the small ball 5. Now, defensively, this team is going to get burned. I'm just going to be honest. Klay Thompson, good defender. Draymond Green, good defender. Everybody else on that floor, subpar. Now, Curry's decent. He plays the passing lanes well, but he's not an incredible defender, and he's going to hurt you more often than not. But you look at the big men under contract for the Warriors. Draymond Green, and then everybody else. Now, Eric Pascal was great in his rookie year. I think he'll be really, really good next season. But we'll talk about, kind of what that next season is going to look like and the players that they could get. The big men just aren't that good for Golden State right now. Now, I like Pascal. I think he's going to have a pretty solid year next year. And Alen Smailagic is a fun project. Kevon Looney hasn't been healthy, and of course, Draymond Green is obviously a reliable starter. If the Warriors are really looking to draft a big man, I think they'll be looking at Onyeka Okongwu out of USC or maybe James Wiseman out of Memphis. But we focused on 3 guys today. Talked about Deni Avdija, talked about the elite defensive wing in Isaac Okoro, and then we finished it all off with Obi Toppin. So here's what I want you to do. You're all the way at the end of the video, so make your voices heard. Which of these 3 guys should the Warriors actually pick with that number 2 overall pick in the 2020 NBA draft?